Cup draw is done. Check it out. Group B, USA unbeaten in 2 previous World Cup meetings against England. They last met in the group stage of the 2010 World Cup. It was a 1-1 draw. England finished 4th in the 2018 World Cup and has gone 56 years without a major tournament title. Let's talk about this with ESPN soccer analyst Taylor Twellman here on SportsCenter. Taylor, what's your first reaction to the U.S. draw?
Favorable, and yet for social media, Jay, it turns into one of the more insane storylines with you've got England and the infatuation with the English fans and the U.S. fans. Is it football? Is it soccer? You go back to the 2010 World Cup where the United States said they won the game, even though they drew 1-1. You look at Iran, the geopolitical aspect of that, the 1998 World Cup, they beat the United States 2-1. And then ultimately the 3rd place. That's the interesting one, Jay, because you see it. If Ukraine wins, there's so many storylines with that and what they're going through as a nation right now. If Wales wins, then you can make an argument this may be the most difficult group, and with Gareth Bale, and then obviously Scotland and that rivalry with England, but a very, very favorable draw for the red, white, and blue.
What do you think will be the biggest challenge for the U.S. in this group?
The most important part is winning your first game, Jay. That's the most important part, because in the history of the World Cup, 78% of the teams that win their first game advance. That means the opposite if they lose. And so that opening game is going to be against the winner of that playoff. And so you have to start this with 3 points, because the last thing you want to do is to go into the England game having lost the first game, then most likely needing 3 points or needing a result. The most important part of this World Cup draw is going to be the first game. If you get that and get out of the group, Jay, then all of a sudden you've got a favorable draw with Group A, because more than likely Netherlands wins that group, and if you finish first, you play the 2nd place team. This lines up for the United States. If there was any way to line it up for them, they've got to be quite pleased with where they're sitting.
All right. Taylor Twellman with the insight on SportsCenter. Taylor, thank you.
No problem.
Breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. The United States will face England, Iran, and the winner of the UEFA playoff in Group B at the World Cup in Qatar. Now, their opening game will be against the winner of that UEFA playoff and will take place on Monday, November the 21st. Now, the USA have a history with England in their group. They beat England, of course, in that famous game back in 1950, one of the biggest World Cup upsets of all time. And they drew with England in the group stage in 2010 on their way to an appearance in the quarterfinals that year as you take a look at the group. So perhaps not necessarily a bad omen for the United States to be placed with England, of course, when the draw was being made. Lots of oohs and ahs because of the fact they were the first 2 out in that group, out of the pots, I should say, and then Iran put in there, and then the UEFA path winner, which has yet to be decided. That will be Wales facing the winner of Scotland, Ukraine. If that match goes ahead in the UEFA playoff, one of those 3 teams will be in the group, in this Group B with the United States, Iran, and England. For more on the draw and what it means, let's now welcome in 2 guys who played with the U.S. men's national team, our football analyst Jimmy Conrad and Heath Pierce. Jimmy played, of course, with that U.S. team in the 2006 World Cup in Germany. Heath, you were part of that preliminary squad for the 2010 tournament in South Africa that went to the quarterfinals. Let's start with reactions here to the U.S. draw. Jimmy, how you feeling about their placement in Group B?
You know what? I'm pretty excited about it, Jeremy. We get England to think they're better than us on the field, so we can come in and be the underdog, and they're a little bit arrogant, I think, overall in terms of what they're entitled to when these competitions roll around. But they do have opportunities where they got to the Euro final, they had a chance to win a major trophy for the first time since 1966, and they choked. And I feel like we can play into maybe that narrative a little bit and really be the underdogs. I think we thrive as underdogs. We've done that historically, so I'm excited to draw England for a lot of different reasons. And then with Iran, we played them in the 1998 World Cup group stages. We lost 2-1, so it's time for us to get some revenge. And then with regard to Scotland, Wales, or Ukraine, whoever comes out of that European playoff, I like our chances against those particular teams. I think we match up well against them, and I think our quality could show through. Now, obviously, they have some special players, but so do we. So I'm pretty excited about this group, all things considered. Yes, there'll be some challenges like any group, but I think this is a group we can get through.
Yeah, what I would say to that also is that, England, while they have a number of young stars, so do we, as Jimmy mentioned. We have a lot of quality players, and I think we actually match up well against England. Obviously, they fell short in the Euros. They've been sort of in this revitalization. England has traditionally been club over country, at least for the last couple of decades or so, but now you see this re-emergence of this national team and the pride of playing for the national team. So that's going to be a fun one. Also, U.S. versus England at the time was one of the most viewed matches ever, and it was one of the first days of that World Cup, the 1-1 draw with the U.S. and England. And then, obviously, looking at Iran, they cruised through World Cup qualifying. 8 wins, I believe, 1 draw, 1 loss. Really hard to know how they're going to come into this World Cup. They have a number of high-quality players, including Azmoun, who plays at Bayer Leverkusen, hasn't been getting the minutes that he would probably want at the time. It has been their leader in World Cup qualifying. So that's another one that I like our chances against in terms of the way we match up, the style of play that they have. And then obviously, we're still waiting to see what that third opponent might be, all three of which are pretty favorable when you look at just what we could have gotten. U.S. traditionally gets placed into the group of death, gets very difficult opponents, something that we're going to have to face if we ever want to be going for a World Cup final or going deeper into the tournament. But overall, I like this draw a lot. And it could have gone, it was a little bit dicey there for a few moments where I'm like, there's a few opponents that I don't want to face with this U.S. side, but overall, pretty good draw.
Yeah, guys, Nigel Reo-Coker is here on the set with me. We're going to bring you in our next segment to talk about this, but with Jimmy throwing the smackdown there between the USA and England, wanted to get you in for a reaction here.
Wow, Jimmy, I don't know what England Jimmy has been watching, and now that's why he's laughing uncomfortably, but there's no way you could tell me that the USA and England are going to be perfectly